Hello and welcome to the Surgical Spirit podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Haidar Al-hakim, the Third Eye Doctor. Pull up a chair and get ready for some candid and uncompromising discussion with experts, innovators, agitators, and influential people from every corner of health and well-being. From inside the hospital to at home in the kitchen, we're leaving no stone unturned in our quest to uncover the secrets of healthier, happier, more successful, and less stressful lives. Thank you so much for joining us, and without further ado, let's meet this episode's guest. Hi Jack, how are you doing today?
Yeah, really well, Haidar. How are you?
Yeah, very good. It's sort of, the weather's picking up. I mean, by the time this goes out, it'll be in spring. So I'm a fan of spring, after the hibernation of winter.
100%.
What kind
100%.
of season are you?
Summer, through and through. Even though I overheat and I'm uncomfortable, I am still a summer child through and through. I'm most comfortable in the winter. Yeah, though I've got a Colombian wife and she's used to 40-degree temperatures, so no matter what in my household, it is baking consistently. Energy bills through the roof.
So do you ever slow down? Because it sounds as though that you never slow down.
I'll slow down in let's call it next year, shall we? And then next year it'll be the year after that. No, we're doing really well. Yeah, we're busy. So I just want to keep the momentum.
I guess you're young, and all that kind of stuff. You haven't burnt out properly.
I think there's your key word, not properly. Not yet, anyway. Let's see how far we can push it. But no,
Yeah.
it's easy to manage. Ultimately, it's just what you have to do, isn't it?
Yeah. Where did you get that kind of go vibe from?
Well, as I said, I've got a Latina wife, so I haven't really got a choice. Because if I ever slow down, then she's a giant boot that goes up my ass. Um, but no, look, we've got goals, we've got ambitions, and all you have to do is look around at the society we're in at the second, and you're either going to be one of the sheep or one of the wolves. And it's if you want to be one of the wolves, if you want to make it, then what other choice we've got other than the work? Otherwise, you're just sat on the sofa watching Netflix, and I'm all right.
Well, I can't do that anymore apparently because my they're cutting down on all of the hanger-oners apparently.
Are they?
I'm more of a hanger-oner than a go kind of person. I've always been at the coattails of hang on the coattails of other people.
Yeah, but you're making moves, aren't you?
Yeah. For me, I think yeah, I like to have change. I like to have change. Being in one place, doing one thing repetitively, totally kills my soul. So I've got to
No,
be like, jumping from one thing to another. Um, but I'm trying to understand. I mean, look, before you got married to your wife, were you saying that you weren't a go person?
No, not at all. No, my background's always been in sales. And sales is inherently, it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's a 7 till 7, 360 roles where you are taking a prospect the entire way around. That is inherently a go type operation. Your basic salary is criminal, and you make your money on the commission. So it is an input, direct correlations to output. So no, I think that since I was 18, 19, well, 2021, that's what's developed it in me and always pushed me for success.
Why did you choose sales?
It fit my skill set,
Mm.
which was communication and speaking to people effectively. I'm a social creature at heart, and I like that human interaction. I like helping people. And that's what sales is. There's a huge misconception around it and you do get bad salesmen who push and pull and they do things under the radar, but ultimately these are the people that fail.
Right.
The best salesmen speak very little and listen more than anything else, and then come up with solutions that are going to be mutually beneficial to all parties involved. So everybody walks away from a deal as if they've won. And that's something that didn't only help me in sales and help me be hugely successful there, but you can carry that through to every walk of life. every part of your life. If you walk into it looking to help people and provide value, and walk into a situation saying, how can I help you? You'll find that people help you a lot more in return, and you end up climbing together.
And how was school for you? Did you find that there was a synergy in your skill set there?
School was interesting. I did really, really well early on. Up to GCSEs, breezed through them, A levels, kind of breezed through them, university. And I started questioning the system and as to why are we doing this? What is the benefits? What is it going to go? Because I was studying international business. So it was more of a gateway degree as opposed to anything that would have genuine practicality in the real world and application thereafter. And it started dawning on me through that process, thinking, is this worthwhile when real world experience will get me where I want to go as well? And it was during that time that I started questioning everything around me, the world around, the system that we're brought up in, and you start connecting dots and start looking at things a little bit skeptically. But that skepticism has helped kind of almost break me free of the system that's around. So school went well up to that point, and then it started. Well, then I started looking after myself, if that makes sense, rather than letting other people do that for me.
Why did that? I mean, how did it change, and why did it change, and what happened at the time?
So it was more a slow ongoing realization that
Hmm.
when I'm planning my future, when I'm planning where I'm going to go, and yes, I'm spending all of this money and all my time and working on a degree that ultimately is going to give me a slip of paper saying yes, I can follow instructions, and that's all it is, isn't it? It's a slip of paper and saying that I'm really, really good at doing something that I'm told to do. I thought, well, hang on. Do I need that to succeed? And now, don't get me wrong, I completely understand there are a lot of professions out there where that's absolutely vital and that's necessary. Healthcare being prime among them. Okay, you can't have unqualified doctors, nurses, professionals in any case. But when you're looking at a lot of the things out there nowadays where they are pushing so hard that you have to have a degree for, and I'm talking things like media. I mean, Bolton has a course called football studies. I mean, come on. You're now just
Yeah,
talking
but
this.
Bolton need it though. Bolton need they need to. It's different, mate.
No, yeah, 100%. But look, you start looking at more, is this really education anymore, or is this
Mm,
just a business?
mm, mm.
Is this just another route for the government to suck as much out of it? And now you look at the fees that are surrounding education, and it's disgusting. People are having to put them in debt themselves, and this isn't the good type of debt, which we'll talk about, but this is a liability that's going to stick with them till they're 50 years old. It's
Yeah,
mental.
yeah. That's a good term. Liability rather than debt. I think that those are two massive distinctions that
100%.
one can look into. Yeah, I mean, I think, but even healthcare professionals, I think, yeah, I have second thoughts about, you have to do this in order to become this. I mean, I found in my experience that when you're in I think the sophisticated word is in the shits, you kind of learn quite a lot. And that's only when you're on the ground doing the work. So it's kind of a balance of both apprenticeship and didactic,
Mm.
work and sort of lecturers. I think if the two can merge, traditional education or further education, and then you've got this sort of apprenticeship kind of aspect. I think if we can merge both of them, because everyone learns differently. Some people, as you said, have to sit in a lecture theatre and, they can solve a certain role within the, workforce.
I think that would be invaluable if that was possible. I think as a society, we're beyond that now because there's a business aspect.
Mm.
And if that's a forecastable income for the government to fund the education and universities and all of this here, to make
That's
sure
so
that
sad. That's so sad knowing that we've got a government that just sucks off the people. That's
it's
like,
true.
that's pretty depressing.
I know it. But that's the reality. But people don't look at that. People will avoid that because that's a very horrible truth to see. And it's much easier to live in comfort and ignorant of that exact fact.
Yeah.
Now, this
Yeah.
this is why people don't question it. This is why people are happy to get a mortgage on their property and spend 20 years overpaying to pay it off early. So then they've got a reward at the end of that of an extra £1,000 to spend a month, and then they've won at life. That's mental. That's mental. If you question the society, if you question the systems that are around you, you realize very easily that you could use that in a different way and further those results in a quarter of the time. But
So you had
that's
that. So you had that realization. Um, but there must have been a change in you somewhere to start questioning it. Was it, I don't know, you stopped supporting Bolton, or you had, a really nice fish and chips down your local. Something must have triggered that kind of doubt or sort of questioning feeling.
there wasn't any key distinct moment or key
Mm.
distinct event that triggered it. It was just a more of an ongoing, I'm doing this every single day, and what is the point?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I wasn't doing badly. I was online for a 2-1. It's not the best, it's not a first, 100%, but
Yeah.
it would have succeeded and ticked that box at university. I didn't follow through. I didn't get my degree. I went into to work. I started down the corporate route and actually started gaining experience in it because I felt for me that was the better way.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a key trigger to it. It was
And
more of a
sorry, what was in the corporate that you enjoyed more than being in the education institution that you thought, do you know what, this is my cup of tea?
earning money, not spending money.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Simple as that. As soon as you start getting money coming through, because as a student, you are worried about it, you're terrified of it because
Yeah.
you're given a grant and you're giving a loan that you start paying interest on the moment the first amount hits your account, by the way. So that's an entirely different topic and robbery in daylight right there. Um, but as soon as you start working, you realize, hang on, there's less stress around money, that it
Yeah, yeah,
isn't
yeah.
something to fear over. That I found infectious because there's
Plus it's
always been
leverage. Plus it's leverage. Money is leverage at the end of the day. And if
%.
if you have leverage, I mean, we don't have to call it evil or Satan or whatever, but it's leverage at the end of the day.
It's
Leverage, and if you put value into it, that's an explosive combination.
that's the key word you just mentioned there is value. That is what money is a promise of exchange of value. And you're acknowledging that someone is providing you value. And that is all money is. It's a tool. As you
Mm.
said, it's neither good nor evil. Much like a knife isn't good nor evil. It's the person that wields it and what they want to do. And this again questions our government, but let's not open that can of worms.
Well, yeah, it's a shame that they've gone down this route. But as you said, ignorance is probably the overriding majority feeling within the whole population. I think that's the key.
I would tend to agree. I really, really would, because it's a comfort thing. I think the nation is sick and the disease is comfort. This is why, I mean, I talk a lot about people's pensions and the absolute travesty that the state pension in the UK is now, what, £203 a week. That's £800 a month for people to live on. That wouldn't have even done 20 years ago, let alone today. But people are scared of questioning how are they going to improve their lives further because they are comfortable knowing that there is something for them already and they haven't got to try. And to try is actually a lot harder for them. That's going to make them uncomfortable. And they're so wrapped up in their little ball of comfort that, they haven't got to. And then lo and behold, they're 65 years old, coming to a retirement and going, oh, hang on, actually, how am I going to live? Because this isn't what I was promised or what I thought I was promised because I never actually inquired.
I mean, that's when, they come and see us with heart attacks and strokes and sort of all these other things. I think it's like quite a major life event when you realize that you've actually thrown your life away.
I can see it
I
though.
don't want to sound very depressing. Yeah.
No, not at all. But look, you can see. Look at the common denominator of all the success stories of people living to 100 years old, and people always ask that question, what's the secret? And more often than not, it's the fact that these people stayed busy. Yeah, they may say the fact that there's some special cream or they drank half a pint of Guinness every single day and that's what made them live forever. But the fact is, they're all going to have a purpose and they're all going to be busy throughout and they don't let themselves get tired and old. It's as soon as you hit retirement and sit down on the sofa, that's it, you're fucked.
Yeah,
Then
that's a very
you
technical term. I use that all the time.
call a spade a spade, but this is why, again, I believe in having an attitude about don't just accept what's given to you, go out and get it. Because you find purpose. It keeps you smiling.
Yeah.
It
Or
does.
crying as well. Yeah, or crying.
Oh, that's it 50-50, equal terms.
As in like you've been successful and then you've messed things up and it's gone down the pan. You cry, but then you start
Yeah.
all over again.
Yeah,
That's
100%.
very real. That just to let guys know and girls out there and in between, it's pretty real.
Very real. Very real. You'll stand at the top of a mountain with your arms wide, crying for joy, and then someone will come up behind you and kick you between the legs. But
Yeah, very
you keep
painful.
going. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. But you know what? You don't grow. You don't grow in successful endeavors.
So
So if
here's
it
Jack, so here's Jack in his corporate world. He's saying to himself, "Oh my God, I'm getting money here. I've never experienced this. What was going through your head? What was like the plan? What was the kind of dream at the
to get
time?"
more. I wanted the freedom. I felt from going from broke university student, not sure about what I wanted to do and how I was going to proceed, and worried, terrified about finances, to earning money, and then having a sense of comfort around it, and going, well, that in itself was infectious. So I started working. I just started doing it, and I started earning more and more and more, and I started developing a pot behind me. And then I started looking into what money is and how do you level yourself up? Because it's all well and good earning it. You can be great at earning it and great at managing it, but how then do you become the next level? How do you escalate? And that's what kind of brought me back round to property. Because I was actually born into property. My dad was a joiner, he was a developer. So I grew up with a Hummer bandsaw in the back garden. But it was almost classic teenage rebellion. I was like, I'm not going to follow in your footsteps. I didn't want to pick up the tools. I didn't want to go into the trade. I wanted to do something independent and on my own. And I think probably I was lost back then. I was lost through university as well until I started, as I said, kind of trying to figure out where I actually wanted to go. But that's what brought me around full circle. Was I was like, well, how do you multiply what you have? Because if you have six figures in a bank account, that looks pretty, but it's pointless. It's not doing anything for you. So how can you evolve that £100,000 into a million, into 10 million, into genuine financial freedom where you haven't got to worry? You only work because you want to work, not because you have to. Where you haven't ever got to worry about a state pension because it's never going to be a problem. You'll have £200 a day to spend, not £200 a week.
And I'll be honest with you, there is a certain culture within the healthcare professional sector where they celebrate that, oh, by the way, you'll get a really nice pension at the end of the day. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's like 25 years of misery, and God knows what's going to happen in 25 years. There may not be Britain PLC and money and anything else, with the way things are going.
No, 100%. It's a
I
very
mean, this is blasphemy. I mean, I'm sort of saying blasphemous stuff here.
No, you're speaking the truth. And it's if you don't want to hear it, then it's stay in your comfort bubble. But a pension promised by the government is only a promise. And they can be made with the best intentions. But as you've just said, 25 years is a very long time. And I know NHS pensions are generous, but you are still trusting your entire future on the promise of somebody else. That sounds risky.
Yeah,
Well, you
and
can take steps.
they may say, do you know what? Putin's around the corner. You've got to sign up and go to war, and that's the only way you're going to get your pension. They could say anything, literally
Anything
anything.
can change. You can't trust local authorities or government-run initiatives, you can't. And look, Birmingham and Nottingham city centres over the past year have both filed for bankruptcy. That's insane. That is the government, and they can't run themselves. And they want to promise you that they're going to take care of you in your golden years when you're no longer useful to them. I think
Yeah,
that's
this
risk.
podcast episode needs to come with a good old anti-government warning. I'm
Look,
sure they're going to shut us down, but hey,
well, if that's the case and that's the
that
result, then I
that's the way
apologize.
the cookie crumbles, as they say.
No, but look, it all feeds back into breaking out of your comfort bubble
Yeah,
and actually taking it on yourself, being a free thinker, managing risk instead of avoiding risk.
yeah, yeah,
Because every single person on this planet has the same opportunities
mm,
to create something for themselves.
mm,
And you all hear the people that mumble and grumble and complain about their lot in life, but they are scared to actually roll up their sleeves and get dirty
yeah,
and get
yeah,
stuck in. And I think that feeds negativity into society, and I don't think that's right.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, the powers be feed into that, and it's a great way of enticing them into, into your initiatives, as they call it.
Mm.
I mean, they plow all this money into God knows where, and situations getting worse. We're obviously in the wrong sector, you know, to tap into vast amounts of taxpayers' money.
Yeah, no, I don't think they have a clue what's going on, to be honest. It's a turbulent time for them. I mean, look, the Tories are going to get out. It looking like Labour's going to
Yeah,
come in, and what
yeah,
is going to happen thereafter, I have no idea. We haven't even recovered from the last Labour government.
yeah, yeah. I think, well, I'm guessing, but I think they'll just use the same policies of the Tories, and but just change the rhetoric a bit and change the color, and have more different ethnicities, and different genders and so on. I
On
think
the
that's,
on the
yeah,
surface, I think you're probably right, but I think you hit the nail on the head that ultimately, ultimately nothing's going to change.
yeah, yeah. It's the same old BS. But I think I was speaking to an entrepreneur startup in Germany, and he says situation there is worse. And in terms of entrepreneurship and startup and so on, it's actually quite good in London, just London per se. So there is a kind of movement towards that. Um, but he's going to the US because he said, that's where the major markets are, and Silicon Valley still, has a good reputation, and there's a lot of money there, seed money and so on, investment money.
Interesting.
So, London still has a good reputation, but then they're in that entrepreneurial world, risk-taking world. Um, Whereas the majority of
Yeah.
us, are not in that, world of explosions and implosions.
No, no, we're a very placid society, us
Mm,
Brits. I think that's probably the best way to put it. I think we are bred and designed to do as we're told. And I think that's what that keeps us in line, it keeps us in check, but it doesn't keep us happy, and it doesn't, as I said, develop creative thinking and go-getters. But at the same time, not everybody can because of the system that's been bred around us. We are
yeah,
we are taught to be employees, not to be leaders.
yeah,
Because if everybody was leaders, then the system wouldn't work. There has to be classes. And that's why there are classes in this country.
yeah, yeah. And do you think the sort of the younger generation have sort of grasped at that, and are more likely to be outside this placid bubble?
I think that's very, very difficult to say. And I don't know.
Mm,
Honestly, I don't know what to make of the generations that are coming up. I
mm,
don't think social media has helped at all.
mm,
I think it has developed an isolation to the youth nowadays because you don't see, as it was before, you and your mates going out and about and causing a bit of mischief, pushing boundaries. You don't see that anymore. Everyone's stuck inside. They've got tablets, iPhones, iPads, and they communicate with each other through these where you haven't actually got to have social interaction. It's a fake interaction. You can voice an opinion and take a strong stance, but you never actually have to look people in the eye to do that. And I think it's weakening them. So I think you're going to see a rise of some very strong characters that come out of it.
Mm.
But at the same time, I think for the majority, I think it's quite dangerous, to be honest. I think rather than go out and try and push themselves to achieve things, they'd rather speak and complain about things and have the world change around them instead of them tackle the world.
Yeah, and particularly with AI coming along and all this sort of artificially generated realities, I think you can pretty much slot yourself into anything, and that's it.
Be anywhere, go anywhere, have everything you
Yeah.
need delivered to your door, and we're going to forget what fresh air is.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that can be generated as well and marketed as well. So, that's
True.
that's all possible. So you've decided to kind of bite the bullet and listen to Dad sort of again, and you told your dad, yes, Dad, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it wasn't quite in that way. I got
Uh,
myself a little more established before I told him, oh yeah, by the way, I'm doing this.
yeah.
It was more a case that with what I was doing in sales, I had a nice pot of
Mm.
money to the side. And as I said, I was looking into how can I grow that? How can I,
Yeah.
because sales isn't easy. As I said, it isn't a 9 to 5. It is more a 7 till 7 plus extracurricular hours on top of that as well, if you really want to make it properly. How do I start moving away from that already? Because I was doing that for a decade in total. And I had a nice pot of money. I looked into it, and all roads pointed to property. It was something I knew because my dad was a developer, and I grew up around projects, so I knew how to project manage. So I put the pot of money that I had into a house, and I flipped it, and I sold it, and I made 20 grand profit. And I thought, hey, here we go. Should I be smart with that money? No, I'm in my 20s. Let's have some fun. But then I did it again, and then I did it again, and I was like, you know what? Here we're onto something here. And this is what I'm achieving with 20% of my attention span because I've still got my full-time job. I had a friend go into maternity leave. And the company she was with at the time was only going to pay her 6 weeks mat leave. She had £40,000 in her account. So she said, Jack, that I'm in a bit of predicament. I want to spend a whole year with my baby, but I've only got £40,000. I can live for the whole year on that, but then I'm not going to have any savings left at the end of it. And I don't want to go back after 6 weeks because then I don't spend time with my baby. So can you flip a house for me? Because you've just done that yourself. I said, sure. So she put the £40,000 into a house to buy and renovate. She borrowed the money to live on from a friend. At the end of that year, we'd sold up the property for £40,000 profit. The end result was she paid the £40,000 profit to her mate, who just supported her throughout the entire year. She had the entire year expenses paid for and still had a £40,000 at the end. And we were like, well, there's a result.
Yeah.
If I can do that for one, let's start doing it for others. And it opened my eyes into to what I can potentially do. So that was in 2020. 2021, I then evolved and started actually building people's portfolios. So doing the full A to Z service where I'd find people's houses and find people homes, renovate them, and then add them onto their rental portfolio for them. And then it was 2022. Christ, that seems so long ago. And yet that's flown by that we jacked in our jobs, my wife and I, and doing this full time. We haven't looked back. And now it's all about how can we help ourselves, yeah, absolutely, break free of everything, become entirely self-sufficient, not have to rely on anybody else. But now I help other people achieve the same thing. And there's huge gratification for it. Because once you immerse yourself in the realms of property, which property is just the realm of wealth. That's exactly what it is. There's a direct correlation that you can't get away from. You start seeing the systems behind the systems, and you start seeing the strings that are actually getting pulled, and you start evaluating the society from a psychological point of view because you see how much sense it makes. And you can see it just how different that is to what you're taught. Now, I had that realization in university before I even had any of this information I have now. And then there are people that are 50, 60, 70 years old that have still got the wool pulled over their eyes thinking that was the best thing they could have done.
Oh, over like the 10 years that you're doing sales, what did you learn from that? What was kind of your biggest realizations doing sales for 10 years?
That people like to talk,
Hmm.
and that if you ask few questions and sit and listen, that you can connect with people. And if you truly, truly understand their pains, then you can help them. But it takes that ability to stop talking and to listen and to process what they're saying. And then you start seeing through the bravado that a lot of people have, and understanding that actually these people haven't got their shit together. They are as scared and worried about everyday life as you are. And it's with that realization that you realize actually you're in a position to help people. Maybe you do have a bit of a stronger mentality and you can actually give people a hand up. And you only get there when you've talked to 10,000 people
Hmm.
and you see the trends yourself, because that's what you do. Like in sales, there are days I do between 300 and 400 phone calls.
Well,
You know, you're doing between, on a quiet day, 4 to 5 hours solid talk time on a phone, and anywhere up to 10 hours. It's a lot.
yep, yep. So you like to, yeah, you like to talk to people by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair to say. I like to hear where people want to go and what to get to. And that's probably my favorite thing about what it is that I do at the second, because I'm no longer pushing somebody else's agenda, and I've worked for some amazing companies, and a lot of the companies have done amazing things. One of them was based in social care that helped organizations set up and get registered with the CQC so that they can then do all these amazing things for the people in their local area. That in itself was very gratifying. But at the same time, that wasn't my vision, and they are still doing things for other people. What I like about what I do now is I have those same conversations where I am listening, I'm finding out about people's pains, I'm finding out about their troubles, I'm finding out where they want to get to. What I really like about it is seeing how much passion they have about speaking about their own goals, because property is a journey of personal wealth. And it's about dreaming, where do you actually want to get to? What sort of future would you like to have? And compared with the other conversations that you have with everybody else, when people start talking about that and their genuine aspirations, you can see the glint start appearing in their eyes again. And it's wonderful to hear. And then when you start breaking down actually that what you're dreaming isn't a dream, it's achievable. And then you start reverse engineering a path for them, and they actually realize that that isn't just something I'm going to fantasize about, that's a potential. There's huge gratification for that, let alone when we actually get them on their way and get them started working towards that goal. There's a joie de vivre that comes back, a spring in their step.
You, are you French or something? Do you have a bit of French in you?
No, I don't. I'm about as British as they come. But I spent a lot of time when I was younger traveling France.
Nice.
A lot of time.
Was that during the summers or just
Yeah, so my old man was a bit of an adrenaline junkie. So he got into paragliding, paramotoring, flying. So from the age of 13, I was doing that. My first flight, 2005, 10th of August at 6:30 in the morning. I'll never forget that day. Trudging up a mountain with a 12 kilos of paraglider on my back and then jumping off. What a thrill. What a thrill. I was far too young to be scared, but I had my mum positively shitting herself at landing for me. But that was great fun.
wow, nerves of steel by the sounds of it.
Why why not do something? If
Staying
it's
alive. I think for me it would be staying alive.
calculated risk. It's
Right,
all
right,
about calculated risk and measured risk. Like we spent days training for it on the ground.
right. Okay,
So
yeah.
it isn't just I fancy giving this a go, so let's go and do it. There were procedures in place. But again, that's the attitude that I take to everything in life. You question, is this the right way for it? Is there any way this can be improved? What are the risks surrounding it all? And if the rewards outweigh the risk and the risk is manageable, then let's go ahead. Same with everything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, is property still lucrative, given that, there's all this sort of taxation issues, high interest rates, the current market. I mean, do you think sort of, a decade down the line, property is still the way to go in terms of financial freedom?
It's a really, really good question. There's a lot of movement in the property market. There always has been, there always will be. It's not a stagnant market. The government does seem to have it in for private landlords. So look, 2017 taxation law changed on income, so you can no longer offset your mortgages against your rental, and that screwed so many private landlords over. The right thing of the government would have been able to do is to let landlords incorporate their portfolio without penalty. But of course, they wouldn't do that because that would be right and just. But that is your way around that. It's no longer beneficial to be a private landlord because then taxation is against you. What you do instead is now you incorporate. You buy your property through a limited company, and then the taxation change law, beg your pardon, changes.
Is it still lucrative though, as an individual?
100%. 100%. I mean, it depends, I suppose, what you mean by lucrative. Like a solid buy to let, so a single rental, you're going to net between £300 and £400 a month passive income. So is that going to be life changing? Absolutely not. But that rental income isn't actually the wealth builder in property. The wealth builder and what will change your entire life is the fact that property is consistently increasing in value. If you buy in the right areas of the UK, then that property will double in value every 10 years. That's a powerful investment. Considering you only put down 25% of the value, that's a 4-to-1 ratio on the money you actually put into it. That is leverage, and that is an incredibly powerful tool. The fact that compounds over time as well, it changes your life. All of a sudden, the £300 to £400 a month you're getting from each property, well, as you get one property, will turn into 2 properties, turn to 4 properties, will turn to 8 properties. That £300 a month very quickly becomes £5,000. That £5,000 will become 10 grand. And then you realize you're not worrying for anything anymore. And you're well secured entirely. So is it lucrative? 100%. It is never not going to be beneficial to own property. Is it ever going to change? Honestly, no. That's never going to change. You look at the financial institutions that run the country. These people have the biggest vested interest in property. Lloyds Bank and Legal & General have got an ongoing battle, for Christ's sake, to be the largest private landlords in the country. These people fund the government.
How much property do they have? Do we know?
They've collectively put together £1.1 billion to purchase residential properties. This was released last year. That's a whopping figure. And there's so much hate about landlords, private landlords, in terms of how people have this image that actually they are causing the housing crisis that we have at the second. We're tadpoles in the ocean of giants that are playing this game. That housing crisis itself is a very big point of contention. It's a manufactured housing crisis. We have the ability to create the 4.5 million homes, beg your pardon, that we're short of in this country. We have the infrastructure to do so. But for one reason or another, applications keep getting denied. Lending keeps getting denied. You have to ask yourself why that is. But then you sit back and you realize what would happen if 4.5 million homes actually appeared overnight. Well, the value of property would plummet. So people like Lloyds, Legal & General, all your members of the House of Lords who own multiple properties as well, well, their net wealth would take a massive hit. every single mortgage in the country would then be in jeopardy because everyone would find themselves in negative equity, wouldn't be able to remortgage. The whole system would crash. So the housing crisis we're in at the second, that is protected like the crown jewels.
Mm.
There never won't be.
Mm.
It's a worrying environment. But if you understand that that's never going to change, then why not get into it? Because that same worry, and it sounds so negative, but that comes with such a massive safety net that if you get into property, if you start building a portfolio, you can know with 100% certainty that entire sector, the property market, is protected and it will never crash, not indefinitely. Worst one we've had in recent history was 2008. And lo and behold, 2 years later, property prices were back where they were and ascending in value faster than they ever had before. That's a huge peace of mind, right?
Yeah. I'm just I mean the current situation in Iraq is they're building a lot of property there. Hundreds of thousands actually at the moment. So, I think generally speaking, around the world, properties equates to wealth, and I think most people know about that. But it's sort of having the knowledge, the right property at the right price and in the right place. And I think, having that knowledge is paramount.
100%. 100%. Like anything, as I've said earlier on in the
You
in
keep
this
agreeing with
conversation.
me, Jack. What's going on? You keep agreeing with
Well,
me.
stop talking sense, Haidar. Stop talking sense, and then I'll disagree. But no, but you are right. You have to come from knowledge. You have to start from a place of strength because it is an investment still. Yeah, and if you go into it with your eyes shut or with wool over your eyes again, then you do stand to lose money, and no one wants to do that. But it's not actually difficult to attain that information. I mean, freedom of information is wonderful, right? Google's a wonderful thing. You can find out every statistic about a county district that you want in a matter of minutes. It's one of the first things that I do when I look at a new area is I break down an entire county, district by district, and look at all the surrounding information. Unemployment rates versus employment rates, appreciation values over the past 5, 10, 20 years. You look at average house price and what the appreciation and what they are for both detached, semis, mid-terrace. And all of a sudden, when you correlate all of that data, you see little gems of areas you're thinking, actually, that's going to be an amazing place to invest. And it's not even difficult to do. And it's not difficult to piece the information together either. It's just having the thought and the wherewithal to actually do it rather than just going, oh, that's a house, I'll go and buy it. Let's throw some tenants in there and see how it goes.
Yeah.
You're going to lose. You're going to lose if you do that.
And do you think, it's possible for a healthcare professional to sort of, I know, that's what you've kind of thrown yourself into, why healthcare professionals particularly?
So it's a good question. I had a bit of a scare back in 2022 when I was managing what I was setting up this business whilst I was still employed. I had a bit of a heart murmur, and that scared the living shit out of me. I'll be honest, because I'm an otherwise healthy 30-odd-year-old that all of a sudden has got to be put to sleep and have a heart shocked back into a proper rhythm. Atrial fibrillation, I think it's called. Very, very minor, and really not much to worry about in any respect, but gave me a bit of a wake up call. And at the point, I was still at a time of where am I going to take this? Who am I going to help? What do I want to do? And these guys at the hospital were phenomenal, phenomenal. And you get talking to them and you start understanding about their financial situations and kind of the stress and troubles that they have to go through, both through medical school and then through the lower leagues of the NHS as well. There seems to be a big inequality in the value they provide to what they actually get in return. And I suppose that's something that resonated with me. And I thought, well, if I have this ability to help people, why wouldn't I help the people who need it? And that's where my commitment went to.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite difficult to realize how much of an impact we have on other people, a very positive impact because we're sort of bogged down in our own, stress and misery of being doctors and surgeons and physicians because the system does grind us down. Um, yeah, I remember when I was a patient and I saw a colleague doctor, I was amazed by their kindness and just I loved it and I realized, wow, I'm sort of doing this to people on a daily basis, and yet I don't appreciate the work that I'm doing. And as you said, you have so many worries. Financial worries is like a major thing
Mm,
for doctors. And I think, people like yourselves sort of come in and say, well, actually, there is an alternative path, and there is something that you can do, and it's successful, and it ticks
mm.
all these other, non-doctoring goals and needs. I think it's a win-win.
That's interesting. So how did you find the difference of perspective from being a patient to then obviously administering the treatments yourself? Did that have a direct effect on how you actually approach your job thereafter, or?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, I realized that the smallest of my interactions, humanistic interactions, makes a massive difference to the patient. So, if I am that bit more kinder, if I am that bit more patient, if I am that bit more, myself, jokey self rather than serious self, it makes a big difference to the patient, and it makes a big difference to the healing relationship, and interaction. Whereas before you just treat it as work, and when you get into that working rut, you kind of just do it because it's work rather than because you have another human being in front of you.
Sure.
Um,
But that almost sounds like you're putting the emotions back into your job, which is if I'm because
yeah,
I've listened to some of the conversations you've had before, and almost the dehumanization that you guys have to go through training.
yeah.
That seems like
It's
they're going
not
to be
right.
butting heads.
Yeah, yeah. It's not right. It's. I mean, looking back, um, yeah, I think over the last few years, I've realized that I've got to be myself, in these sterile situations. Um, and that means showing the whole gamut of emotions, good and bad. And I think that's beneficial, um, which goes against what our regulatory bodies tell us to do. And I think, they're missing a big chunk of healing there. Um,
I would tend to agree, but we are in a world
so,
of red
there
tape.
goes my registration. Yeah.
No, but it's really really interesting to hear. It's a shame that we're in such a world of red tape, and the he said
Yeah.
she said the Me Too movement hasn't helped anything either. But look,
Yeah.
the simple fact is that I'm absolutely in awe of the work that you guys do and how you can tackle this every single day. And I think again that's another huge contributing factor as to why I want to help healthcare professionals more than ever, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be honest with you, they deserve it. I think they've been through a lot of tough times, and I think if there's someone out there who's, you know, going to give them a situation where they are financially independent, I think that's a great benefit. Obviously, there's a lot of hard work ahead of you, and there's risks and so on, and we're not discounting that because I know that you're a realist, and I'm sure you'll tell them the lowdown.
100%. Radical honesty is the only way that this really works. But look, what we do is we do everything we can to remove the risk.
Mm,
To quote Warren Buffett, risk comes from when you don't know what you're doing.
mm,
Now, if you know where the snakes are, you know how to avoid them.
mm, mm.
They're very simple processes that we can follow through that prevent us from actually ever coming across these big, massive problems. Does it bring the risk down to zero? Absolutely not. I'm not going to sit here saying it does, but we can minimize that chance and make sure. I mean, the landscape is changing still. And going back to our wonderful government and what they keep doing to the property market, they're screwing it up again. I mean, the latest.
How do you mean?
So they keep trying to act on tenants' best behalves, and it's the tenants that end up paying, in short, because they don't think things through. Take the we mentioned before, the 2017 tax law change. It's called Section 24. Well, if a landlord, if they're going to strip private landlords' income down, and a lot of private landlords, they live on this money, the only way they can then survive is to increase their rent. So all of a sudden, so this tax that was meant to be for landlords is now referred to as the tenant tax, because it's the tenants that have to pay it. And they've just done this again. So they are, as of 1st of October of this year, they're getting rid of something called Section 21. Now, Section 21 is a no-fault eviction, and it's a landlord safety net that means that they can reclaim their property from a tenant without the tenant having faulted, providing they give 2 months' notice. So basically, they can reclaim their property and ask a tenant to vacate their property. As of the 1st of October, they're not going to do that. They're not going to be allowed to do that anymore. So the government initially thinking is saying, well, this is going to protect tenants and stop landlords from being able to threaten them with eviction and some of these things that have been known to happen. But what's actually going to happen? Because 99.9% of landlords are very, very respectful of their tenants. They know it's based on mutual respect. But now if something happens, they can't evict them. It means that only the best of tenants who have pristine job records, pristine credit scores, who sign guarantors, these people are going to be considered for rent. People who don't fit that bill, where are they going to go? It's again, I can only see this becoming an elitist class of tenant, and people who don't fit that bill are going to be in trouble, because we haven't got enough social housing to support people who haven't got a place to live. Again, that's how I can see this going. And again, so it's the government acting, trying to protect tenants. Landlords have to protect themselves. This is our livelihood.
How would you change things? How would you do things differently?
I would start opening the market back up and making it a bit fairer again, because they are constantly targeting landlords where, in all honesty, I'm not entirely sure if there is a solution to it with how the government have put it in place already. I think because there's always people who will follow through on actions and take advantage, beg your pardon, of circumstances that I don't know if there is a way back for it. All I can see is where they are going at the second, and the ability for a landlord to evict a tenant who's misbehaving, maybe had an argument with them, stop being respectful. Maybe haven't missed payment or anything like that, but if it's no longer a good fit, then I think that should be a landlord's every single right to ask the tenant to vacate. 2 months' notice is plenty, but to remove that altogether is only going to cause trouble. It's backing landlords into a corner.
Yeah. I mean, politics is involved in everything, and as you know, politics is involved in healthcare. Most of the time for the wrong reasons, and that's never going to change. So, so why did you marry a Latino woman? All respect to her and so on, but you keep mentioning it, and also you've written it in your LinkedIn profile, like a badge of honor, or
100%.
Like a poison that you swallowed and you're still alive, sort of thing.
Because she is everything that I think society can be. She doesn't hide behind false words. She is driven, motivated, ambitious, doesn't just take what's given to her. She's constantly striving for more. And it makes me want to succeed beyond where I wanted to before. And it keeps me smiling. Now we've got beautiful children, and we're trying to bring them up in a way where they question everything as well, which right now is very irritating because they do question everything we say. But I think that's only going to do them well down the line. And I think with the way, as we discussed before, where society's going, particularly with the younger generation, there are going to be very few people that emerge. But if they are one of them, then you're set up and laughing.
Are you going to get them involved in property, your children, or do you think they're going to do that automatically?
Well, no, I'm going to present them options.
Yeah.
I want them to be free thinkers. I want them to think what they want to do and where they want to go, and have that freedom to make that decision. Am I going to make sure that they're protected and they are safe? 100%, absolutely. But I'm not going to shelter them entirely, because you only learn in this life through uncomfortable situations. You have to fend for yourself. You have to have a few battle scars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, I'll be there to jump in if anything goes seriously wrong, but
Yeah. Yeah.
at the same time, no. So I will build up a legacy that they can take on, and that's a huge thing that property can do. And that idea of legacy, of passing something down, is it's very easy to pass that down, avoiding the whole inheritance tax fiasco that you have as well. But will I force them into it? Absolutely not. They are their own people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's been very fascinating, and you know, the whole thing around property is fascinating as well. It can be quite complicated, and I think people like yourselves make it that bit more simpler for us, and it's definitely something that's worth tapping into. Um, I'd like to finish on this. You know, if what would your three top tips be to yourself, Jack, that was about to kind of pack it all in and leave university, or did leave university, and you know, thinking about alternative ways of doing things, what would be your three top tips to him then, given that you've experienced what you've experienced over the last few years?
Quite simply, number one, get into property sooner, because the sooner you start, it's a snowballing effect and it compounds. So the sooner you start, the sooner you can start releasing the shackles that tie to society around you. Number two, stay in sales for a long time. I think the skills that you pick up in sales and communication, and how to help people and communicate, is absolutely invaluable. I think every youth and teenager should spend a 6 months to a year in an insurance call center, learning how to calm troubled people. I think that would solve a lot of the problems. And number three, just keep moving forwards at all times. Keep moving forwards, because you're always going to get knocked down. That is a guarantee. But failures are the only way you actually learn lessons, and that they're not actually failures; they are just lessons. So always keep going.
Wonderful. It's been absolutely fascinating, Jack, and great listening to you. How can people get hold of you? What's the best way?
So I'm on all social platforms. So LinkedIn, Instagram, under Jack Rooke or Property 505. Yeah, that's normally the best method of contact.
Thank you, Jack. It's been great.
Haidar, thank you very much.